Thank you very much for being here. Much appreciated. Sharing the information is very important. Yes, we've had historical mining in our mountains, about 100 years worth. During that entire 100 years, the total amount of ore removed was 250,000 tons. 100 years, 250,000 tons. South 32 intends to remove that 100-year total every 25 days. This is dramatically different from what it was back then. We have legacy environmental damage at more than 100 mines. When the mining left here back in the early 60s, two key things happened. The Nature Conservancy purchased the property that they now run, and Sonoyta Creek was dammed to create Lake Patagonia. Both of those events created the opportunity for a nature-based economy in this community. And from the time when the mines left until 2016, when this study was done, the local economy had grown 421%, and the population 69%. That is not my definition of a dying town. So now we have 21st century industrialized mining versus the 1872 mining law. This law still governs mining as we know it in the country. The 1872 mining law was created to populate the West. Bulletin, we got enough. We can move on to a slightly different mission now. Under the 1872 mining law, all the minerals in the ground are free to whomever wants to take them out. That would be a lot like me paying for my car and the gas to get me to the grocery store, going inside, taking everything off the shelf, and taking it outside without paying for it. This is a problem in our modern economy. Under the 1872 mining law, there are also patented claims and unpatented claims. When you were a miner and you went out and you established some unpatented claims and you worked it for a while and you proved there was something there, you could go to the government and say, I would like to own this property and transfer it to patented private land. And the government would sell it to you for $5 an acre. And you now owned that property. That particular section of the 1872 mining law was put on hold about a dozen years ago. It's still on the books, could be reactivated, but it is currently not in place. The properties that are patented claims that are in existence fall under completely different federal rules and state rules for the operations that they conduct on patented land. And you'll see that as we go into this more. The unpatented claims are the claims that are on public Forest Service land, and because that rule has been put in abeyance, they cannot switch it to patented lands at this time. Next. I'm not going to read this, but we need to reform the 1872 mining law. Giving away free minerals does not work in 2019. There is no connection between the groundwater and mining activities, and we are in different times. There's climate change, there is drought. We have to be thinking about water matters more. I will share on this slide that Congressman Raul Grijalva is introducing another version of the hard rock mining law next week. And I have been invited to go to Washington, D.C. and lobby on behalf of the 1872 mining law. And I will be there next week, Wednesday and Thursday, meeting with key legislators to explain why we believe this is important, and also to be at the Natural Resources Committee hearing. It is important. Okay. So more about the 21st century industrialized mining. What are we facing these days? We are facing an environment where the federal regulations are being watered down and funding is being cut to these agencies. It's pretty difficult to get through to the Forest Service these days because there's so few of them around. The state of Arizona is one of the weakest states in the United States for mining regulations. The mining industry has identified Arizona as the 19th friendliest mining jurisdiction in the world. Santa Cruz County is not allowed to make any rules or regulations regarding the mining unless it's on less than 5 acres. Well, that doesn't happen. So there are no county rules available. Okay, please. The town of Patagonia has been able to accomplish a lot. Its most current general plan was in 2009, and the town just reaffirmed that for an additional 2 years. A bold statement in the general plan. The general plan was created because of citizen input. There were multiple meetings in this community, and this is what this community said in 2009. Closely study and reject mining. Resource extraction proposals which pose a threat to the environmental, economic, or cultural resources of the Patagonia area. The town of Patagonia put in road restrictions in 2012. They were voided in 2016 with drama and reinstated in 2017, at which point the mining industry went to a Pinal County legislator and got that legislator to complain to the Arizona Attorney General that the town of Patagonia was being bad. And if we were judged to be bad, the town of Patagonia's money would have been taken away until they corrected it. And this town lives on state revenue and income tax. We don't have property tax here. So this was a big threat. Fortunately, and very quickly, the Attorney General said the town of Patagonia is within its rights to have these road restrictions. So they are still in place. The Patagonia Flood and Flow Committee was established in 2015. This is important because it is important for us to know all that we can learn about our water. The water studies, the quality, the quantity, and determine what is the database of all the information available to us. This April, the Patagonia Town Council rejected South 32's use permit application. And we'll talk a little more about that. And the town, as I said, readopted the general plan again. Our Sonoyta Creek watershed is currently threatened by multiple industrialized mining activities. The South 32 Hermosa project, the Rosemont mine, and for those of you who are not completely up to date on that, it is in litigation right now, 2 different lawsuits, Conservation Group and the tribal nations are suing over the recent decision. The Sonoyta Creek Ranch Mitigation Plan by Hudbay would affect our area. And the problem with this particular mitigation plan, well, there are a number of problems. First of all, I absolutely hate mitigation. It's like, okay, we'll destroy the Cienega Creek and go be nice over here. That doesn't work for me. On top of that, our local experts, the Nature Conservancy, Borderlands Restoration, and other organizations wrote to the agencies and said, this is a lousy plan. This is not going to be good. We need to be doing something else. But that has been ignored so far. Sunnyside Project, which is owned by Regal Resources and funded by Barksdale. Sunnyside had tried for some plan of operations several years ago. We sued the Forest Service. They got denied. They're still out there doing different things. Rio Tinto was flying those giant torpedoes for a while and scanning us, and we haven't heard anything, so not sure what they're going to do. But these are our current threats. This is a map of the claims outside of Patagonia. Across here is about 8 miles, and down here is about 10 miles. So it's a very large area. Approximately from the town limits to the limits of the claims areas, that's about 6 miles as the crow flies, a little bit longer if you go in a car. So the claimed areas, this big gray area is the Sunnyside Barksdale project. All of this turquoise are unpatented claims on Forest Service public land by South 32. These yellow pieces here and here and here and over here are private holdings of South 32, with these two pieces in particular being the patented lands. And there's more, but this is, the one we are focusing on tonight. Right now, South 32's claimed areas, it's about 450 acres of private patented land, and now about 23,000 acres of unpatented land. They've added some additional. The trench mine piece allows them to move forward and create a mine on a small envelope. The trench mine, they found stone axes out there. Heaven only knows. We know our area's been inhabited for more than 10,000 years, and I love that history of our area. From 1858 to 1939, there were multiple owners of the property, and then in 1939, the property was acquired by a Sarco, who operated the property through the early 1960s, and then they were the last one to leave the area in terms of mining. 2009, a Sarco files bankruptcy, and what that means is, guess what, taxpayers, you're back on the line for all the environmental damage that was caused. In 2015, Arizona Mining at the time owned the property, and they acquired the trench camp property from the state of Arizona for less than $100 for this 300 acres, and the promise to fix the environmental damage that had been left by a Sarco. The estimate was they put forth a passive water treatment plan that was going to cost $2.6 million. $1 million of that came out of the Sarco trust funds, so they were going to pay $1.6 million plus the 100 for 300 acres. PARA retained experts to look at the passive water treatment plan, and our comments were forwarded to the state agency, and the state agency rejected the passive plan, required an active plan, which we understand was substantially more, about $25 million cost. Every time we move the mining company from passive to active type of operation, it is better for the environment. Every time we move them from 1.6 million to 25 million, they are bearing the cost of the operation instead of us, the taxpayers. Please, Cassina. So what's going on up at the property right now is essentially remediation and exploratory drilling. They are permitted for remediation, and this is good to be fixing the old environmental damage. And this picture here is about 18 months old, but they created new tailings facility area. Tailings, strange word for probably most of the audience. Tailings are what is left over after all the ore is taken out of the ground and chemically processed, and the ore concentrate goes off on that truck, and what remains is tailings. And the tailings go on the tailings piles. Some of it is also, on this particular plan, going to go back into the ground. That's another story. Every slide here, by the way, has about an hour story, and we're not going to do the full hour story. The tailings facility area then comes down, and any material that comes off of that would come through an underdrain collection pond to a water treatment plant. Any material, water that comes down goes through a water treatment plant because it is coming out of mine exposed minerals. So it is important for them to treat any water that comes through there. This is Flux Canyon Road down here. Okay, just to orient you, please. This is what the tailings and the remediation work looked like in January of this year from a site visit. This is a new tailings facility, and for scale, you can see this is one of those big lights that goes outdoors, and you don't see it, but down below here is the underdrain collection pond, the water treatment plant, and then down here are two portals that were blasted because under the 1872 mining law, if you are sitting on your patented land, you can drill down and you can go out and over onto the Forest Service unpatented claims because you're not on the surface. So exploratory drilling is also allowed for them at this point. These are the beginning of the blasting of the twin declines. I don't know of anybody who's been up there since, so I'm not sure where it is. In January, we were told that the subcontractor working on the project, Cementation, had to pull off because of unstable rock, and they were going to revisit all of that. So next slide, please. This is from a South 32 presentation, and the colors are different minerals, you're not going to be able to read them, that they have identified of interest. These gray areas are the patented land, and this is patented too. So they can set up, this isn't precise, but somewhere over here are where those twin declines go. And then they will go down and underground with tunnels over to those areas. An important thing to point out is that they are on track, according to their information, to release what is called a maiden mineral resource by the end of fiscal year 2019. Their fiscal year is June, so next month we will have a maiden mineral resource, another weird language. Actually, the reason I do this 60 hours a week, it's like keeping my old brain active because you're constantly reading all of this stuff. So every mining company is listed with some stock exchange. Arizona Mining was with the Canadian Stock Exchange, and things were according to their rules. South 32 is with the Australian Stock Exchange, so there's a different set of rules and regulations that are there primarily to protect the investor, so that the investor has confidence that the information being shared by the mining company is accurate enough for them to go ahead and make an investment in. This is important to the mining company because these are corporations. And corporations' primary responsibility is to make money for their investors. And if you misbehave, you end up, and this just happened April 30th, where a mining company is being called to the Security Exchange that they are saying things that aren't accurate. So it is important to South 32 to do their due diligence in order to determine that all the information that was provided to them by Arizona Mining is accurate as far as the mineral resources that they find, and also all the factors that influence operating in this area, including social license. Okay. This is old information, but it is the only information that we had. I suspect when South 32 releases its either pre-feasibility or feasibility report, likely the second half of 2019, it probably won't be very far off of this. And we've mentioned the 10,000 tons production per day. Water is just under 1 million gallons per day. This is another frustrating thing about the state of Arizona. When the agencies grant these, okay, you can go ahead and take 1 million there, there's no cumulative impact. So this one's taking 1 million, and Hudbay is going to take 10 million, and another one's going to take this much, and another one. We can't do this anymore. We have to look at the totality of what we are doing. The vehicle trips, I'll talk more about this a little bit, between the concentrate trucks and delivery of chemicals and employees, that was the estimate of 661. Blasting, because these are going to be tunnels that are blasted. Think of the superhighways. I can hear coyotes at night. I have no doubt I'm going to be hearing blasting when that occurs. The mining company intends to operate 24/7. And they can do that because the state of Arizona exempts them from dark skies laws. And the west gate on Flux Canyon Road was closed, and there's a whole controversy about that and who owns the road and why not, but that's a minor one at the moment. The mining company has two major challenges right now, and one of them is getting their ore concentrate out of the property. Their original intention was to go out Harshaw Road, and when the town of Patagonia put in its road restrictions, that created a lot of difficulty. And there's misunderstanding about the road restrictions, so I wanted to bring some clarity to that. This is the town's road restrictions, and what they said is that the heavy-duty trucks, this isn't every employee truck that goes by, this is only the heavy-duty trucks. Only 100 trips per week. That's essentially 14 a day. The mining company wants to do 130. So this is a problem for them. They have been looking at alternatives. They talked about Flux Canyon Road, but not very much because the bottom portion of Flux Canyon Road is in conservation with the Nash family, Circle Z. Duquesne Road was another possibility. How many have driven Duquesne Road? It's gorgeous, it's beautiful, it's going to cost them $20 gazillion. Let me get out my tiny violin. And back to, all right, so we covered this, you know, only 14, they want 130. This traffic alone is going to be something that this town of Patagonia is not used to. Stand at the corner of the post office during 2 shift changes per day, and there will be 250 vehicles going in and 250 vehicles going out twice a day. This was mentioned during the use permit applications. I put this in here because if you really want to go find out how they define the gross vehicle weight and all that, it's in the town's regulations, so you can go and read that. It's complicated. Okay, thank you. So another problem is operating on the patented land. It can squish. This is the one piece that is the trench mine. That's about 300 acres. And then this was originally known as the hard shell property. These pieces here that are the blue outline, that's tailings. And we've explained what the tailings are, but those are the tailings piles. The mining company in their presentations tells us they are out of room for tailings after 6 years of production. Where are they going to go? They're going to have to start the process to go out onto the Public Forest Service, or they've got another plan, and we'll hear what that is. So with this being as tight an operation as it is, besides running out of space within 6 years, they don't have space to park employees or accept deliveries of toilet paper. So they went to town and bought a 27-acre piece for $500,000 and put in a use permit application to please use 2 acres for employee parking and 2 acres for the big trucks to pull in and either wait to be escorted up to the mine or offload things. You know, what are you going to do with the other 23 acres? Especially when you're spaced tight. The town rejected this. There was huge turnout at both Planning and Development Committee meetings. South 32 at one point withdrew their application because of the comments that they heard, but the town chose to reject the application, and they can resubmit it if they choose to do so. The point I want to make is, if you ever doubt if standing up and speaking out makes a difference, look at what we have going on here. People are standing up and speaking out, and it is making a difference. So new ball game now with South 32, and they are already behaving differently than Arizona Mining did. The way this works for corporations is they have to have an economic license and a legal license, and since the 1990s, they have to have a social license. Because by the 1990s, many of us started saying, this isn't such a good idea, and I really don't want to be your host community. The legal license, we've touched on that already, where our laws are being weakened constantly. I've been an activist since the 60s. I feel like, it's like, why am I back here on all of this again? The environment, the war, women's rights, it's a time tunnel I do not enjoy. The economic license is a piece that is acquired by doing advertorials and paying a professor to write a one-sided story of the economic impact. I co-owned the artist gallery here, local artist gallery, for about 14 years. And our customers were 15% local, 37% from the rest of Arizona, 42% from the rest of the United States, and 6% from around the world. We are a worldwide destination for outdoor activities. The social license is a new piece, and South 32, in the last several weeks, hired a consultant, Environmental Resources Management, and they came to the community, spoke with a lot of people, and we will see what happens next. Social license to operate. This is fascinating if you want to go Google something and find out more about it. In essence is they want you to be happy so that you'll be quiet, please. And that's part of the reason why they came here. And, you know, who doesn't want $100,000 for the pool or $200,000 for the fire department or whatever else? But this community has always been volunteer-driven, and we will continue to be volunteer-driven. As far as accepting money, don't be silent. That doesn't mean you have to give them the social license. This is from an outfit called sociallicense.com, and it identifies the different levels of social license that can be withheld or withdrawn. I like you today, but next week I've decided I don't like you so much. Accepted or tolerated, approval supported, and psychological identification. So the goal will be get as many of us as possible down here. Thank you. As I said, Para met with them, and we talked about it. This is from South 32's annual report in 2018 and their conversation about social license. And social license, besides due diligence for their investors, it is important to the mining company because community, this I will read, community dissatisfaction can result in failure to attract people and business partners, operational delays, and disruption and litigation, which can affect cost, production, and in extreme cases, the viability of our operations. Let's take the first early on example of the water treatment plant, which was going to cost them $2 million and we think ended up costing $25 million. So that $23 million they were forced to spend would have been a lot easier for them to take $1 million and drop 100,000 here and 10,000 there on all our organizations, and maybe everybody would be quiet. Next, please. This was, after this essence of presentation to the consultants, this is Para's bottom line. The first tenet of responsible mining is there are some places that you do not mine. And it's not because it's my backyard, it is because it is everybody's backyard. This region has been identified as one of the top 5 places in the world that must be protected for species survival. That's you and me, people. And we're at that point. I hope many of you have seen this, but we are a truly unique biologically diverse area. We are at the juncture of 5 different biological zones. We have all the plants and the animals wander through here. We are known to be a gateway, likely gateway for jaguars and ocelots. This news came across today. There are 15,000 wild jaguars left. And we're going to either with a border wall and or a disruption of a mine shut it down. Mexican spotted owl was up in that area. No one has seen the Mexican spotted owl this year. It's been their nesting season, and it was incredibly noisy up there. So none have been seen. Bears, we're told, are in different places than they used to be. Coyotes are not where they used to be. There is a lot of change happening in the mountains with the wildlife. So wow, yes, these odds do seem overwhelming. Mining company has a lot of cash and a lot of highly compensated and experienced individuals. Don't forget who won this one, though. Never doubt that a small group of people can't make it happen. We're the only thing that ever has. Keep standing up, speaking out. We have a lot of incredible organizations in our community, which is why I always say that given the chaos of the times, there is no other place nor any other group of people that I want to be with. If there's a group of people who can be the transition team to co-creating the better world we know is possible, this is the community that is a role model for that. So Patagonia Area Resource Alliance, our role in what we do here is to watchdog and to speak up about what are the risks and realities so that you all know what is going on. These are mutually exclusive worldviews, and there is no way for us to tell you how this story ends. But we can guarantee you that the story will be better because of all the successes we have had to date and all the successes we intend to have going forward. These are some of the major successes over the past years. For those of you who don't know, Richard Wark, who was Arizona Mining and all those different companies, filed the first claims on behalf of those companies in 2006 in the Patagonia Mountains, right around the time he was finishing negotiations with Hudbay to sell off Rosemont, because Richard Wark was also Rosemont. We had an excellent report that we hired from Earthworks to evaluate the proposed plan of operations that Wildcat Silver, another Arizona mining company name, had, and ultimately it was withdrawn. I believe it was withdrawn because of the resistance and the quality of the Earthworks report. And that's shortly thereafter, the purchase was made of the 300 acres of private patented land and shoehorned the operation onto it. Another success recently was the May 2018 Santa Cruz County Public Works was proposing replacing the Harshaw County Bridge and widening it in the road and everything for the mining company who was going to pay for it, and that deal fell through. Once again, you heard about it, you showed up at the meetings, and you spoke up about why you didn't like it, and it went away. Casino. We have advocacy opportunities going forward. Before production actually starts, there are additional permits that the mining company will need. Breaking news, the Arizona Department of Environmental Quality released another passive plan for treating the wetland system. We have hired our expert again who is evaluating it. Those comments will be submitted by May 17th. Ongoing is always being aware of the NEPA process for where one can insert oneself and object to something, reform the 1872 mining law, strengthen Arizona laws. I pause there because the thing I shake my head at over and over is 24/7 with lights all night. And the only comment that has been made by a mining company representative, Greg Lucero, was, well, we have to operate 24/7, otherwise it isn't economically feasible. But they're trying to preserve a 48% rate of return. So I don't buy that one. Protecting the biosphere has got to be our highest priority, or we're toast. It's over. What can you do? You can stay informed. If you aren't on our newsletter list, please sign up. We'll let you know when things have to happen. Be a watchdog. If you see something, let us know. It is amazing the things that we have received phone calls about or messages, or out of the blue a piece of paper shows up in the mailbox. Unattributed to anybody, but an interesting piece of information. Attend the monthly Town of Patagonia Flood and Flow meetings, because that's where the discussion is going on amongst our local nature conservancy organizations about how to protect our water, how to know the status of our water so that we know if it changes and how it is going to change. Support all the environmental organizations that are working for a safer environment. Vote as if your life depends upon the health of the ecosystem, because it does. Volunteer with our local community organizations, lobby your legislators, and letters to the editor and PARA will send out calls to action as we do that. As Coyote said, if you aren't on the newsletter already, there is the sheet out front, and you can sign up or go to the website. And this is the bottom line. I can live without a phone. I can live without a car. None of us can live more than 3 days without water. Water matters more. And even if there's a quantity left, what is the quality of that water? Because I don't want to live with bad water and not much of it either. Thank you for listening. Questions, comments?